Can you imagine that God is talking now, like with Moses? He's talking now as he did with Moses 3,000 years ago. It's like the Sinai here.
I'm pleased to be able to present to you the testimony of two blind people who were gifted with sight for only 35 minutes to see a film on the Eucharist. It is certainly extraordinary. The film was made by myself and Mike Willesee, an Australian journalist. What happened beforehand may well explain why the blind saw that film. Mike and I had been investigating some powerful Eucharistic miracles and other signs of the Passion of Christ happening in our world today. We had broadcast through television documentaries on our work. One of the stories we presented was the remarkable case of a mystic from Bolivia, Katia Rivas. We saw and filmed her when she had the stigmata, the wounds of the crucifixion of Christ. 29 million television viewers also saw this miracle. But we also saw and filmed something else very unusual. Katia said that Jesus has been dictating to her many books of theology over a number of years, and also giving her messages for humanity. Some of those messages were directed to us. In them, Jesus gave instructions on the documentaries we were to make. I was able to film some of the times when this was happening.
The central matter is from science to faith. Is the main thing the Passion of Christ and the Eucharistic miracles.
With what I film, I'm able to bring you into the room for you to see what I believe is history being made.
He is indicated not to use any video of Katia or of the Christ of Limpias.
The world must know that you are prepared or ready with material that's always new, renewed. Nice, isn't it?
So, do you understand that to mean we should use no videotape that we've used before, but any videotape should be new?
You can say we have this study of the statue of Jesus in South America.
What about Lawrence, if Lawrence gives us new material on the Christ of Olympias?
He spoke about videos that we have used. Maybe it could, if it's a new thing, that's new evangelization. It could be.
Also, if Ron is going to talk and he mentions we could start in San Francisco, that's an indication to me that Lawrence may have some material for Ron to use.
The answer comes now. Can you imagine that God is talking now, like with Moses? He's talking now as he did with Moses 3,000 years ago. It's like the Sinai here.
The decision to make a documentary on the Eucharist came from what happened when we were with Katia in 2002. Mike spoke about it in an interview I had with him in 2019.
In May 2002, a group of us were having a meeting in Miami, Florida. Katia was in the group. One of our group had made a documentary on the Eucharist. Jesus then intervened in the group discussion and told Katia to ask me what my opinion was on this documentary. Tried to get around it by saying that all the information was there, but it wasn't quite what you would need for a television documentary to be successful. And Katia said, "No, Mike, Jesus said he wants to know your professional opinion." while it had all the necessary information, it wasn't done in the right form to be successful as a television documentary. When I had scraped my way through that, Jesus said, yes, I agree with Mike. And he said to Cartier, tell him to make one himself for all humanity. We made a documentary. The second launch in Australia was at the Dom Polsky Centre in Adelaide. After we showed the documentary, the MC invited people to line up at a centrally located microphone to ask a question. One of the first few people up was an older man carrying a white cane. He said, my name is Harold O'Shea and I'm blind. But tonight I came along to hear Mike Willesee, and when the film started, I said, quote, Lord, please let me see this film because I know it's going to be special. Stop. And he did stop. I saw the lovely little girl receiving communion on her tongue and her bright, pure eyes as she looked up at the priest and said, Amen. And I saw everything in focus, ... just perfectly right to the end. Ron and I were both taken not just by the fact that a blind man had seen a film, but that he was specific about some shots he had seen that sighted people had not drawn attention to. Stop. One was that beautiful shot of the child receiving her first Holy Communion. And there was not the slightest doubt in our minds that we were dealing with an authentic person with an authentic experience, and one that was beyond our understanding.
This documentary on the Eucharist will soon be broadcast on EWTN Worldwide Catholic Television. The documentary was launched in Sydney on August 23, 2002, and has since been shown around Australia. When the film was launched in the city of Adelaide, Australia, on November 19, 2003, something happened which appeared to be very special. An 82-year-old man, Harold O'Shea, walked to the microphone at question time carrying a white cane. In an emotional statement, he declared that he was virtually blind but had seen the entire film with complete clarity.
This is how I read.
When we visited Harold at his home, he was attempting to read his daily newspaper.
See, it's got the thing there, so I know that's there.
You've got to go back down the column.
And if that thing wasn't there, I wouldn't know it was the end of that column, and I'd try to read across. And that's how I read. And I took that thing along thinking that if I got close enough to the screen, I might be able to focus it. And I took this tape is taped on there for the focal length between me and the TV at the moment. But I tried to focus it to a longer length in the hall, and I just couldn't see anything at all. Well, when I couldn't use that, I reached down, I had a bag under the seat, and I put it down there, and I thought, well, I can listen to it. And I looked up. The whole screen was so clear and so in focus, and every detail. And early on in the film, it shows these beautiful young girls receiving communion on the tongue, and that was so sharp and so beautiful that I said to the bloke next to me, I can see. He said, so can I. And so I just sat there and watched it all, and the whole detail of the pictures of the miracles of the body of Christ and the precious blood. Every frame of that picture was so clear and so distinct, and the detail on the sacred vessels and the cross and the architecture in the buildings and everything was so sharp and clear until the credits started to roll, and then it all went back to normal, and I just saw the credits starting to roll, and then the screen was just an orange blob after that. And I knew something special had happened. And I sort of said, please Lord, let me see this, because I knew that it was going to be special. But I couldn't see anything until I got rid of that and put it on the floor and then looked up, and the whole screen, that's all I could see was the screen. And the screen was so sharp, like as if there was nothing else in the room except me and the screen.
Harold's story, however, was only part of that special night in November. Unknown to us at the time, a woman sitting only feet away from Harold had an almost identical experience. Pauline Greshkowiak. How good is your eyesight, or how poor is your eyesight?
Oh, it's very poor. It's our specialist says I've got less than 5%, and that's sort of peripheral. My central, I can't see your face, for instance.
And you're sitting 4 feet from me.
Yes.
You can't see my face.
No, by myself I can't shop. I can't read things or tell the size of things. No.
So why did you go to see the film The Eucharist if you thought you weren't going to be able to see it?
I didn't realise I was going to see a film. My friend told me she was going. Well, I sat there and I looked up at the screen, and I was thinking, yes, isn't that marvellous? And I watched it, and I was thinking about what it was all about rather than the fact that I could see it. I just seemed to be wrapped up in the film. And then when it was finished, there were a few questions, and then a man came down and he said he wanted to make a statement. He didn't want a question. And that's when he said that he had macular degeneration, which I have, and that he could see the video all the way through. And it suddenly hit me like a bolt that I had seen the video. But at the time, until he said that, I don't know why, but I didn't realise I was watching the... I must have got wrapped up in the video and forgotten that I couldn't see. I don't know. But it was only when he said that I realised that I'd seen the video. And then I said to my friend, oh, I said, I could see it too. And she said, oh, quickly tell them. I said, oh, no, I can't. I guess like jumping on a bandwagon. I said, I don't want to say anything about it. And that was how that all happened.
So you are virtually blind. Your
Yes.
sight is so poor that you can't read, you can't shop. But you sat for 35 minutes.
Watching it. It was amazing.
The MC on that night in Adelaide was Father John
Something I'll say
Fleming.
this. Something happened in Adelaide that night. I was quite overwhelmed by the testimony of one particular man who simply asked me if he could make a statement.
And I was so overjoyed by the whole thing. And that I don't know whether I'd have been more happy if I'd had my sight returned than what I was to have seen that 35 minutes of vision.
But if it is the case, if we can say, yes, he clearly did see it and he can give an account of what he saw, and if the medical evidence is he shouldn't have been able to see it, I think, yes, there is a further sign that this is a video which is powerful, which is important as a proclamation of the truth, and clearly had an impact in Adelaide that night.
I wondered if I had seen it properly. I thought I had, but I just thought it was just the grace of God came upon me for some reason.
And I'd say that that video has made me even more conscious now than I was before of the great privilege I have as a priest to confect the Eucharist.
The Eucharist documentary has the support of the leaders of the Catholic Church in Australia. Cardinal George Pell described the film as superb. He wrote that it provided a great inspiration for understanding and devotion to the Blessed Sacrament.
This story of the blind being given sight to see a film on the Eucharist on a television screen is like what happened here in Assisi in Italy in the 13th century to St. Clare. St. Clare was called to religious life after hearing St. Francis preach. It was here she met St. Francis and committed herself to his religious path. It is said that she was bedridden with sickness and wanted to be at the Christmas Eve Mass being celebrated in this basilica. But when the Mass started, miraculously, she saw on the wall of her room the Mass from beginning to end as if it were on television. For this, in 1958, Pope Pius XII officially named St. Clare the patron saint of television. Now, today, the Church has another cause for celebration. Like St. Clare, the blind who physically could not see were given to see what Jesus wanted them to see from beginning to end on television. You are now invited to see the film that Jesus wanted all of humanity to see, the Eucharist in communion with me. To see it, you can use the link on this website.